I love, aside from giving, being here with you guys and having us be able to spend this time together because we see you online, but we don't get that chance to spend time with you. I love it for my young team having that opportunity to meet you and see what actually happens from all the hard work that they do all the time. So I want to give my team a really big round of applause. And many of them are right down here. If you're on my team, you guys stand up. Right here. We are a team of 27 women. And Kevin, no, I know, I was going to laugh. We actually just hired 2 developers, and if you guys have not seen, BehindTheChair.com has an all-new website that's been in development for 2.5 years, so we're really excited about that. And so today what I want to talk about, and if you've heard part of this story, forgive me, but I think it's a really important story. We have a lot of new people that are here, and we always do, and people always ask me constantly, how did you get started? And I always make this assumption that people know, like why would they, right? The world moves at such a fast pace. So I'm going to just share a little bit of that story, and if you've heard it, you've heard it, and you guys sometimes give me lemonade stand little things and stuff and all the gifts that people give me, but I want to share that story. But then I want to share some new things that I've been spending time working on, thinking about, and that's what I really love to do, is I'm always working on myself. I'm 52 years old, and as I said yesterday morning when we opened the show, I really didn't like myself very much when I was a kid. I was insanely shy, like beyond shy, and the fact that I'm standing here today knowing how difficult it was for me as a child is really a testament to the fact that no matter how difficult or how many obstacles that you have in your life, you absolutely have the ability to overcome them if you're willing to do the work, if you're willing to have the courage to make those moves to change your life. So I'm going to just share a little bit with you guys about everyone has a story, and you never know what stairs they had to climb or the roads they had to travel or the shoes that they had to walk in. I was home back in my hometown, and this was something that I saw when there's an event that goes on, and you go from town to town to town, and it's called the Spoon River Drive. I grew up in a small town in Illinois, and I just thought that that was really powerful because you don't see a house there, you just see the stairs. And we all have a journey that we're supposed to be on, and what's interesting is like my journey is different than your journey and the person next to you's journey. And we never know, that you've got clients that are sitting in the chair, maybe they're not in a good mood, maybe somebody's not a nice person, maybe they've behaved really badly, maybe they're a bully. We never know the journey that somebody else is on. Majority of the time, bullies are not really happy people. In fact, they're much more miserable than you and me in many ways. In fact, recently I was talking to somebody that I grew up with. It was his brother or her brother, and she was the biggest bully. In fact, I don't even think I've told my family this. She was the biggest bully that I ever had when I was a kid in grade school, and I mean mean, really bad, mean girl. And her brother is a hairdresser, and was here actually at this event last year, and he messaged me, and I said, well, how is she doing? And he said, well, she actually committed suicide 2 years ago. So when we think about what happens in bullying and so forth and how difficult that can be, we also have to remember that they're not doing it to us, they're actually in many ways doing it to themselves. So we don't know the journeys that people have, and I think it's important to understand. This was my journey. I recently found this picture, and what's really crazy is I see 1111 constantly, and I have for a really long time. I only found this in a baby book not that long ago, and I think it's really indicative of how I was when I was a kid. I really didn't want to see you or talk to you because I was afraid of having a conversation with pretty much anyone at the time, and I was just really debilitatingly shy. And I grew up, once upon a time, there was a little girl who grew up on a small farm on a road that led to nowhere. So this was the house that I grew up in, and it was surrounded by cornfields. And there was a long gravel driveway, and about a quarter of a mile long. And if the farmers actually planted corn in the summertime, you actually couldn't even see our house. It was right in the middle of cornfields. And if they had soybeans, at least you could see the house. So that was kind of nice if they planted soybeans, so people knew where we lived. We lived about a mile away from any other home, and as you can see, like from the eye, we went on and on and on. As I said yesterday at the opening, I used to play in those cornfields all the time because we really didn't have other kids in the area. And when that was me, as you can see up there, that was my bird Dummy. I don't know why I call it that. It was really smart, and Dummy lived in my room, which was kind of gross, but it was a sparrow. And and I used to feed him, and he used to fly, and at night he would fly out sometimes. And one night he didn't fly out, and instead he actually decided he was going to lay next to me, and I rolled over him and I smothered him. Anyway, I was really sad too. It was a brilliant sparrow. I have no idea why I call him Dummy, but and you guys, some of you heard the story. When I was 9 years old, I wanted a 10-speed bike, and all of the other kids in town had one, and I wanted to have one. And because we, were so far away from town, like it was not really conceivable to walk, so it would have been great to have a 10-speed bike, but we were too poor at that time to actually be able to have one. So my sister and I have an identical twin sister, and so that summer, we decided that I was going to tell my parents, well, I'm going to earn enough money to get a 10-speed bike. And well, how are you going to do that? Well, I'm going to have a lemonade stand. And my parents are like, well, how are you going to do that? There's like 6 cars that go by every single day. That's it. Well, I'm like, well, I'm going to do it because I figure that, there'll be the factory workers that come, early in the morning, and I'll sit there, because what else am I going to do? My friends are doing this, but if you want something bad enough, you're going to sit at the edge of the driveway, and you're going to try to make enough money to get a 10-speed bike. So what would happen is I would take my little, my little table out every single morning, and I would have my lemonade, and probably sometimes I had tea or water, who knows. But we were pretty poor, so whatever was in the house. And I would put my little sign out for 25 cents and just sit and wait for my customers to come. And when they did, cars would come by, and all of a sudden it's sort of like they always kind of stopped because, who had a lemonade stand in the middle of nowhere? And I suppose that they were a little bit curious. So they would stop, and and oftentimes instead of a quarter, they would give me like $1, and and they learned my plight. Like I was able to kind of tell them my story because we were too poor for plastic cups. So when I gave them the lemonade, they actually had to sit there and drink it because I needed my glass back. So every day they would go by, and and I got really good at figuring out who, what times I should be there and everything. And it was, for the most part, it was all the time. And I remember these planes going by, because where I grew up, unlike Chicago where I am now, like, you see them taking off, but I could just see them way, way, way up in the sky. And I just would always wonder, where are those planes going? Like, who's in them? And how can they afford to do that? And I just remember sitting there constantly doing that and walking the fields and playing in the barns and playing in the corn. It was just, I love that childhood, even though it was quite lonely. But every morning I went out and did it, and by the end of the summer, I actually had enough money to go and get my 10-speed bike, and I went to Kmart and I bought it. Kmart didn't suck then, and I got my 10-speed bike. For you millennials, you have no idea what that means. So you just don't. But look it up. There's this thing called Google that you've taught us about. So the moral of that story is a great Thoreau quote. And if you follow me on Insta stories on my Instagram, I mean, not Behind the Chair, but Mary Behind the Chair, you'll know that I love Thoreau and Walden. And one of the best quotes, I think, for our life is that the price of anything is the amount of life that you're willing to exchange for it. The price of anything is the amount of life that you're willing to exchange for it. And that's called sacrifice. What are you willing to sacrifice to make your dream a reality? When I started BehindTheChair.com, this was 17 years ago. So we didn't just show up on the Instagram revolution. We showed up 17 years ago. And I was a miserable, at the age of, it was funny because my father said, when I remember being a kid, and as I was saying yesterday at the opening, like, I always knew that when I was sitting in that small town that I was destined for something else. I really truly believe that. I ask people that all the time. Some people say, no, I never thought, it just happened. But I always felt in my gut that I was supposed to be doing something with my life, something important. And about, at the age of 20, I dropped out of college. I was a geophysics major in college. Like, hello, that has nothing to do with hairdressing, right? But I was a geophysics major. And I dropped out of college, and I went to work as a headhunter, as a recruiter. And at the age of 22, I started my first company. And since that day, I pretty much have worked 7 days a week, it's pretty fair to say 16 hours a day. I mean, that's probably not an unfair assessment. By the time I was 26 years old, I had $1 million in the bank. All not from the Instagram revolution, not from getting funding, but literally from working all the time. And when you're a recruiter, if you're really good at it, you have the ability to make quite a lot of money. But I was miserable. Like, I was miserable. I had all this money in the bank, and I felt no passion for what I was doing, and I just kept that burning sensation inside me saying, I'm supposed to be doing something else. So I literally started BehindTheChair.com when only 10% of hairdressers had email addresses. And I proceeded to think what a great idea that was. And in a period of 2 years, I lost $4.5 million. I lost all of my money, and I lost all my investors' money. So all the time I'd taken to build that up, this was at the age of 33 years old, I got to a point where I had been independently wealthy, and I risked all of that to start BehindTheChair.com. And I lost all of that money, and I lost all of my investors' money. I was the only person that could see my dream. Nobody else could see it. And it was really, really, really hard back then. I mean, the good old boys said that hairdressers would be not smart enough to turn on a computer, that they would laugh at me. And when I say laugh at me, I would walk into a room and feel just like I did when I was a little kid with the Mean Girls. People are whispering behind your back, they're laughing, they're looking at you like I was crazy. I was stupid. And they literally laughed thinking, I'm going to lose all this money. Well, then when Behind the Chair started to get to this point where we were at that point where I was about to lose it all, and I wasn't being honest with my husband about how much money I was taking out of the bank, and really got us to a point where I shouldn't have continued on. And when I did, I want to show you this, and I'll explain it in a second. That's me. It's okay to come from nothing because it means you appreciate everything. I'll talk about that in just a second. But when I did decide to keep going, is when it was kind of like I wasn't going to not keep going, right? There wasn't a decision. This was what my destiny was. I believed it. And the rainbow that we keep talking about is a rainbow that showed up when I was driving down the street. I was going to a family reunion on my husband's side, and I was crying my eyes out. I mean, it was the worst of times. And I was a basket case. I was a mess. And I was in Wisconsin, and I pulled to the side of the road because I saw this incredible rainbow over a farmer's field. And I stopped, and I took a picture of it, and I just kept thinking about that rainbow. The next day, I just decided randomly I was going to go jump out of a plane. And the next day after that, I actually got up really early in the morning, maybe about 5 o'clock in the morning, and I started out across a lake and tried to swim across the lake, and then ended up having to be rescued. Well, what's not so funny about that is I think there's a little part of me that maybe I didn't want to go on because it was really that hard. And it was 2 years ago that I realized that happened. Like, I didn't even realize that maybe that was just trying to get through the pain because I had lost everything and I'd let everyone down. But I had to keep going because I had this feeling, and I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll get lucky enough and the parachute won't open, you know? And it was that hard. I mean, it truly was that hard. And all of a sudden, guess what? You guys just kept logging on. Every day, you'd log on, and more of you would log on, and more of you would log on, and more of you would log on. And it's not because anybody gave us funding, any manufacturer. It was because of all of you that I actually stand here today, because you believed in us before anyone else did. And if you think about it, 17 years later, we have over 2 million members from 90 countries. And the idea that you are never going to be smart enough to turn on a computer is insane. But I want to share with you about how we go about making our dreams a reality. You can be, every single day that we wake up, we can either be a victim or we can be a victor. A victim in every situation will figure out how to take the obstacles and make them a problem. And instead, a victor will figure out how to take those obstacles or those challenges and turn them into opportunity. When I was a kid, as I said, I'm 52 years old now. When my sister and I were born, and we were growing up, my dad would say, "It's a man's world, and you're already behind." So you got a couple of choices. You can either make excuses because you're a woman, you know, and women do this or that, but they don't run businesses. You know, it's just gonna, you know, men are always gonna beat you at it. Or you can get to work, because life is, you know, you can make excuses for it, or you can literally say, I am not going to not achieve this goal. And so my dad said, you're not gonna think as fast as a man, you're gonna think faster. You're not gonna work as hard as a man, you're gonna work harder. You're not going to, and I used to cliff dive and stuff when I was a kid, you know, you're not gonna go to here, you're gonna go higher than the man is. Because that's what the responsibility. Life isn't fair, guys. And that's what he would say all the time, constantly. Can I go here? No, you can't. My friends are going there? No, you can't. Life isn't fair, get over it. And it's true. Life isn't fair, get over it, work harder. Not everybody should get a trophy. The world that we live in today is all about everybody gets a trophy. This is not about a world of getting a trophy. This is a world about, you don't just show up, you need to shine up. You need to do the work that's required to get to where you want to go. And if you think that the world is stacked against you, that the obstacles are just too big in your path, and if we tell people that, if my father had told me and my sister that it was not possible for us to succeed at the level or achieve at the level that that he wanted us to, or if he had given us even an ounce of an excuse, it was always, you know, stop complaining, no excuses, no excuses. There is no excuse. You can do it if you choose to do it, because greatness is not reserved for a chosen few. They say that. I think greatness is reserved for the few who choose it, and the few who do the hard work that is required, that if you want it, there are no excuses. You just go do it and achieve it. And every time we tell somebody that, you know, well, poor you, because you grew up like this. Poor you, you can't possibly do this because you don't have that, or you don't have that. Or it's like giving a handicap, you know, like in golf, they give you a handicap. I don't want a handicap for anything. I could care less if I'm a woman and you're a man. I'm a competitor, that's what I am. And guess what? I'm gonna beat you by being better. I'm not gonna beat you by copying you. I will never beat you by copying you. I will always beat you by being better. And that's what we talk about the B team. We don't wanna be on the A team behind the chair, because the A team thinks you've already made it to the top. The B team, you're always striving to be better. There's always another goal to achieve. There's always another hill to climb. And so in our world, the way that we think about it, we will, no matter how good I am or whether I'm number one at something, I'm going to keep on working harder to keep on getting better. And my dad's here. He's my hero. Would you stand, Dad? Would you stand up? Will you put the lights on? Okay, you guys he's right here. Dad, stand up. Actually, come up here. Dad, come here. Come here. Oh my, careful. Okay, he's 71 and he just did that. Wow. I'm 52. So you guys, you know, people know that I talk about my dad all the time, and this dad goes, "This is weird." If you know, I know that we were poor growing up in the beginning, and you know, $65 a week is what he made with 2 twin daughters trying to raise us, and he ultimately became a self-made millionaire from nothing. But I watched his hard work and saw his dream come true, and but well, we did this funny thing. Remember that time, and I said, "What are the three things for success?" And you're like, "Don't take shit from anyone."
Don't kiss anybody's ass.
But we may have been poor when I was growing up, but I did have somebody that told me that I could be anybody that I wanted to be, and he pushed me really, really, really hard to do it. And I could have been angry with him for that. Like, I could have said, "You're being too hard on me," but I looked at it as, "You're forcing me to be the best I can be." So, thank you, Dad. I love you. But take the stairs this time, okay?
I think I will.
I don't want you to sue me if you get hurt.
I just want to tell you something. I had my kids roofing at 12 years old. They were with a hammer and nails and painting. They did everything. And the thing about kids today, make them do it for themselves. Get them out there and push them. Kids today don't want to learn anything. Get them out there and teach them, because they're the generation coming up. I pushed my kids to no end, and I would continue. I pushed my grandkids as well. And a lot of times I'll tell them to get their head out of their ass. I shouldn't have said that, should I? Okay.
I love you, Dad. I love to talk about my dad because, yeah, he did pretty much. Dad would come to, like, he'd come up to in our bedroom at like 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday and go, "What are you doing in bed? You already missed half the day. Get your ass out of bed." So, but it is a choice. Oh, there's me. Yeah. He wasn't kidding, actually. He actually wasn't kidding at all, to tell you the truth. Like, he would make us roof, like, at 12 years old. It was like, that's like slave labor, Dad. You know, today, you could get in trouble. Somebody would be offended by that. I'm sure of it. What? I know you don't. Yeah, no, he doesn't. He doesn't, and that's what I love about him is, you know, when you believe in something and you have your testimony and your honor, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. You have to follow that testimony and the honor yourself. But yeah, I used to ride a tractor and stuff. So I think this is really important. Hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. Many times, you know, it's the hardships that allow us to be successful, not in spite of them, but because of them. Hardships prepare us for what we need to learn to be able to achieve. You know, the world, people, again, you know, this happened to me. Maybe you look at it differently and say, maybe this happened for me. Victor or victim is all about the choice that you make every single day. So let's say that, you know, I remember talking to some people. Let's say that you had a mother that, that had challenges. Maybe she was depressed. She didn't get up in the morning to get you off to school. There's so many people that are constantly talking about what they didn't have instead of celebrating and having gratitude for what they do have. It's true. And if you thought about it, you know, my mother had very serious depression when we were young, and sometimes she didn't get out of bed, and at the age of 7 or 8 years old, we would have to get ourselves off to school. And I could have looked at that and said, you know, poor me, poor me, poor me. And I know that at the time she was doing the best that she could, but I looked at it and said, I became independent because of that. So look at the positive of the things that happen. And if you ever wonder whether life is tough, look around. Look to the left and to the left and look to the right, and I can promise you that the life that you're living, there will be a line of people lined up to have your life. We need to find a lot more gratitude for what we have. And sometimes life is about risking everything for a dream that no one else can see but you. And that dream for me was behind the chair. Nobody else could see the dream. And people talk about this all the time. Like, they stop and they quit because somebody told them they shouldn't do it. They didn't get it. They didn't believe in their dream. There's a great book called The Motivation Manifesto. And there's a great line that says, "Beware the saboteur of dreams, cloaked as a friendly advisor." Beware of the saboteur of dreams, cloaked as a friendly advisor. It means beware of the people in your life that are dream stealers. Sometimes those people can be people who really care about you, and they don't understand that this risk that you want to take. They're afraid for you. They don't want you to take the risk because they couldn't take that kind of risk. The challenge is that you have to keep pushing forward. Smile at them, say thank you for your advice, and then just go and do it. Like, just don't listen, because the confidence stealers, the dream stealers, and then most of the time, those are people who, who gave up on their dreams, so they want to steal yours. Don't let them do that. That's why where we're at and what we're doing at this moment right now for all of us to be together is because we're like-minded people that want to be great. At Behind the Chair, we have this saying with all of our team. You could ask any of them, and they'll tell you, what's your motto? And our motto is, good is the enemy of great. Great always does what good is unwilling to do, and we want to be great. Like, why do it if you're not going to want to be great? But the world is full of mediocrity. It's full of it. The road to greatness is filled with mediocrity. And those are the bumps in the road all the time. And it's those people around you that keep questioning why you're working so hard. And then they're making you question yourself as to, why am I working so hard? When you're here, you're around people who are just like you. It gives you that confidence to say, I'm not crazy. Because so many people come up to us all the time here and believe that they are. This was the rainbow. I knew it was in here somewhere. This is the rainbow that started it all. That was the rainbow that I shot on that farmer's field when I just about gave up on Behind the Chair and maybe even on life. And it was so beautiful. And it's amazing when you look at it. This rainbow has shown up every single year for 5 years. I can't imagine it's going to show up this year, but there is an eclipse, so come on. You got to get me that. It's the first time in 39 years. I think that's even better than a rainbow. So I'm going to own that one, just so you know. It's an eclipse. It's a big deal. So if you see a rainbow today, please let me know. It's somewhere, right? I know. This was the rainbow that we saw last year. I didn't see it. It was right on the Monday morning presentation. And the very first mentor I ever had in this business, he saw it from his hotel room across, and it landed right on the top of the convention center last year at this exact moment, which was insane when you think about it. Like 5 years in a row this has happened. The world is conspiring to help us find our purpose, and it's that little voice inside you when you go to bed at night that is just asking you a really important question. Are you willing to walk into the fog? Are you really willing to walk into the unknown, to the dream and the life that you've always thought about, you've always had the vision for in your lifetime? Or are you going to turn around and go back to the safety of the life that you've always known? Everything that you've ever wanted is truly on the other side of fear. The changes that are required in your life, you know what they are already. Nobody needs to tell you what they are, because you know it. The challenge is, will you have the courage to do it? Will you have the courage inside of you to keep taking the steps that are required to make that dream a reality? And that's where I do believe the world is conspiring to help us. I do believe, if I told you what happened, I read a book called Good News for Bad Days when I was so miserable, when I was a recruiter. I wrote to the author, and Paul Keenan was his name, and I had never done that before. It resonated, this book did, with me going back now 18, 19 years ago, and he wrote back, and he's like, are you ever in New York City? And I said, as a matter of fact, I'm going next week. Can we have dinner? Well, I took one of my friends with me because I'm like, who's this guy? Like, okay, he's wrote a book that I really love, but I also, like, I don't know. I get there to the restaurant, and I'm looking for Paul Keenan, and oh, yes, he's already here. And then she takes me over to the table, and I said, no, that's not him. No, that's not him. And she's like, yes, it is. He said that you're coming. Your name is Mary, right? I said, yeah. And she said, that's him right there. Well, he was a priest. He was a priest, and he was the author of that book. And he sat down, I sat down, and he's like, I didn't tell you that I was a priest because I didn't know if you believe in God, blah, 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 which at the time, I really didn't. I was very spiritual, but I was not religious. Father Paul put his hand on top of mine at the end of dinner. Now remember, I was a recruiter, I had one employee, nobody likes headhunters, so I can promise you that. I don't even like them. So he put his hand on top of my hand, and he said, Mary, I came to this dinner because God told me to come. And I'm chuckling, like literally, like because that's the kind of person I actually was then. I was very cynical, very capitalistic, very much about me, making money, all of that. And he put his hand on my hand, and he said, God's telling me that you will inspire hundreds of thousands of people in your next job. And I was embarrassed. I thought it was ridiculous. And the person that was with me has his birthday on the exact same day as mine. And for years, he would write to me and say, remember what Father Paul said after I started behind the chair. And it was, and he was alive for another 6 or 7 years, and he passed away. He was in charge of the Archdiocese of New York City, so he was kind of a big deal. But God sent him. So last year, I finally said, okay, God, you got me. I have been denying, and I don't know what God is. You know, I would never, ever say that somebody's God is different. I don't know what it is. I just know that there is something that's guiding me to be the best person that I can be, but I have to choose to do it. He or she or whatever places these opportunities in front of me, but I have to choose to do it. And that's where our free will comes from, I believe, anyway. I mean, I've never read the Bible, but I believe that. Last year after the color show, and the show was called Light, I always go away with my husband. Who's over there? There's my husband next to. My family comes to this. Raise your hand. He's like, yeah, no. So he always takes me away after the shows, and we go to the mountains somewhere. Thank God there's lots of mountains, because I go to the mountains, and then that means there's no phone service, so that's what he really likes. And we went to Rocky Mountain National Park, Estes, Colorado, and the day after we got there, we were in the mountains. The show was called Light, and that's what I saw. An arrow pointing into the sun. Do you see it? Is that weird? These messages come constantly. They're very strange. And how can you deny that one message? Why does one thrive and the other one not survive? It's because you probably heard this thing about the wolf, and it's whatever we feed, like whatever we water is what thrives. Like whatever we focus on is actually what thrives. And I love this. I look at that, and I really believe that when you choose to be a victor in your life and you choose to see the positive of everything, that's how you it's not only how you thrive, it's actually how you survive. Survival is about constantly, somebody was saying to me the other day, these haters and everything, it's like they're so affected by them. And I always just keep saying, go in the direction of the light, like no matter what, just keep moving forward and don't turn around to the shadows of insecurity, of a lack of confidence, of the haters. Don't turn around, because they're actually behind you. As often as if you keep moving right in the front direction of the light all the time, they can't hurt you, because you have to believe in yourself that much. They can't hurt you. I really believe that. I think it's true. As I was saying, greatness is not reserved for chosen few. And I just want to share a little bit about teams, and then I'm going to go. So this is our B team, and I think it's important for those of you that have teams. Jen's the one with the green hair. She's somewhere here. I don't know where she is. She always celebrates this show with crazy color hair, which she loves. It's not so crazy anymore because everybody's doing it. When I started this company, one of the most challenging things I had was a team that didn't believe in my vision or my dream, and they didn't make it their own. Jen, the one that says the B team there, she single-handedly changed our company. And she always like, And do you know how she did that? She walked into the office every day, she sat down, and she was always early. Okay, she's a millennial. She was always early, because she thought that if she was on time, she's late. And she sits down, and every single, if you're on time, you're late, right? Get ready, get prepared for the day, and then prepare at that time. And what does she do every day? She smiles and says, "Good morning. Good morning. Hi, how are you? Good morning." Jen, where are you? Are you here? She's around here somewhere. Are you here, Jen? Where is she? Is Jen around? Get over here. Well, you got to hurry, though, because I'm out of time. Hurry up. Is my team over there? Yeah, can you turn the lights up? And I'll do this tomorrow, I know, but I have a whole bunch of young people. They're actually millennials, and I kind of like them. Stand up, you guys. Here's my team up here. You guys stand up. Where are you? Come on, here's the team. They put this show on, you guys. All these young people. And here's our managing editor is right up here in the front. See the one with the smile? See the one with the smile right there? That's her. She's our design manager. Love you. And my whole team. And would you guys all agree that Jen single-handedly changed our company? Yes, because of that. You can't hire attitude. You just can't hire attitude. Meaning, you can't create the attitude. You have to hire people who are good, nice people, who want to be great, that want to work hard, and that are kind and warm and generous and thoughtful, right? Right? Always smiling, always saying what? Yes. Yes, I'll take that last client. Yes, I'll come in early. Yes. Number one way to achieve success is just say yes to all of it. And millennials are amazing. Who's a millennial here? Millennials can work hard, believe it or not, and they can love what they do. Millennials, if they don't believe in the vision, millennials aren't interested, and that's the difference. If they know that what they're doing is important and it means something, millennials will do it, and they love to do it because they want to make a difference in the world. And that, to me, is powerful. We just have to help inspire them to want to make a difference in the world. And this is the team, as I said. And I'm going to go here in a second, I promise. We can never fully realize the impact we can have on someone else's life. This is Schmegs. And this is one of the things I just want to say. Don't ever underestimate the leadership or the mentorship that you can give to someone. Don't underestimate what somebody else might be going through in their life. People always talk about, celebrity hairdressers are so nice, and everybody's so nice. People come up to me and say, "You're so nice, you're so humble." Really? Why wouldn't I be? Because when you get to a place where you have any level of power or, you start to rise, I think that's a responsibility, always a responsibility to behave in a certain way that gives guidance and shows examples that need to be set for the other people around. And the other thing is, the hardships that I've encountered in my life have given me the ability to see that person sitting by herself in the back of a room, sitting by herself somewhere, somebody who maybe isn't feeling good about herself. Because I was that person, I have that sensitivity. Maybe the hardships that I experienced prepared me for the person that I'm supposed to become, that I want to become, so I can see that, so I am empathetic. And those are the things that are important. And to the world, we may be one person, but to one person, we may be the world. You never know the impact that you could have on a person on any given day, even with a smile. You just don't know the impact. There's a slide that's right here, and I'm going to come up, perspectives, everything. You guys know that one. That's just funny. And we're all right? Like, that's what I love about it. I'm going to just go forward, and then I'm going to go. Oh, I love that. I saw that little mushroom. I'm going to keep going. This is it. And then I'm going to go, oh, that's not supposed to be on there. My slide. I want to just show you guys this. I shot this from a flight home from Los Angeles, and I couldn't believe the size of the wake the boat left behind it. I could see it all the way from the sky, and I can't help but wonder the impact of the wake that we leave in our paths. Do you see that? You see where the boat is? Do you see the impact that that little boat had on that giant bay, that sea? Every decision that we make to be kind, to be helpful, to be generous, to be mean, impacts every other person and those other people as well. It's so important that when I looked at that, that was the very first thing that came to mind, is the impact that that little boat had on the rest of the ocean. And it was really amazing. And I'm just gonna go forward because I have all these slides and I just always talk so much. I would just want to go to the end. I love this one. Maybe life isn't about avoiding the bruises. Maybe it's about collecting the scars to prove that we showed up for it. And I love that. I'm going to keep going. Oops. You guys, I want to go to this last slide. And I'm going to put this PowerPoint up. I'm going to go to this one. It's just so cute. So Nelson Mandela said that it only seems impossible until it is done. Until you do it, it feels impossible. Sunflowers are too heavy to stand straight up. Hummingbirds are not supposed to be able to fly backwards, and bumblebees are too heavy to fly, and yet they do. Defy gravity in your life. Do the impossible and make it possible. Believe in yourself enough that you're able and willing to do it. And mostly, point yourself in the direction of whatever makes you bloom, whatever makes you happy, and whatever your passion is. And then go for it with every single thing that you've got inside you. And I promise you that your life will change. When I started behind the chair, while I lost all of that money, every day I went to work, no matter how much money I lost, I knew I was doing what I was supposed to be doing. So with that, I just want to thank you for giving me the gift of giving me purpose. All those days when I was that little 8-year-old kid sitting there staring up at those airplanes with my lemonade stand, every day I couldn't figure out, wondering what that passion or what that purpose would be. And with each and every one of you, I found it. Thank you for that gift. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day today.